Hi there, everyone. Kelsey Toner here from Be a Better Guide in the Online Tourism Academy, and I have the distinct pleasure to be speaking with Dario Valsagna from Babylon Tours. He's one of the co-founders. Dario, how are you?
Hi, Kelsey. How are you doing? Very good over here. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I'm here in the Canadian Rockies. You are in the beautiful city of Paris. Is that correct?
I am, yes, with a very gray, beautiful afternoon.
Yeah, that's how I remember Paris. The beautiful, dense gray. Wonderful. Did you grow up in Paris, or what's your background? How did you end up there?
No. I was born in Argentina. Lived there for about 24 years. Finished my studies, and I came on a trip just supposed to last for about 2 months in Europe to go around, and it ended up lasting 2 years, which my parents were not very happy about, of course. And in the course of those 2 years, I basically started working tourism here in Paris. After doing a big European tour on my own for about 4 months, I landed in Paris, and I decided this is maybe a place that I would like to test a bit of living here, basically.
Wonderful. So let folks know who haven't heard of Babylon Tours. What type of tours do you lead? Where do you operate? Just a snapshot of right now, and then we'll obviously go back in time to how it started.
So Babylon Tours is a brand that was born in 2012, and we mainly focus on museums and walking tours. We try to keep those groups into very small groups, either private or a very small group that we can handle without headsets, and that it's comfortable enough for everybody to ask their questions and interact with the guide face-to-face directly.
So small, would that be like under 5, under 8, under 10? What's some?
Or maximum 6 to 10 people, depending on the tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you, what cities do you operate in right now?
So right now we have 8 cities for now. We're looking to open a few new ones. Our first baby was Paris, born in 2012, and then 2 years after, little sister Amsterdam came in. And then we opened London to continue expanding, and then we tried a bit of Barcelona, which we closed, and then maybe we'll look into it again. Madrid, New York, Washington, D.C., Florence, and Rome. Pretty much the order of things. Okay,
and to give folks a sense of approximate size or scale, approximate annual revenues or number of bookings?
So, I mean, we're doing pretty well right now. I don't know how to talk about that, really.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We just to give folks an approximate sense, you don't have to certainly get into too many details, but I know many companies that they're in like a lot of cities, but they're doing one tour a year there. So it kind of just any sense that you have of either number of bookings or you guys do well in your cities is what I'm trying to say.
We do. We're in the 7-figure number. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Fantastic. So there are a lot of folks who are tuning in who may have started very similarly to you. You were leading tours early on, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Who, have built up a small business. And so the focus of the conversation is definitely to think about this notion of a growth mindset, how you guys got in a very short period of time. First and foremost, congrats on the success that you have had. That's a tremendous volume of people that are choosing Babylon Tours. Let's roll back the clock a little bit. How did it get started? You mentioned Paris was the baby, and how does your co-founder or sort of Arnaud, who I know, but for folks who don't know Arnaud, how did that come about?
So Arnaud and I, we met working together in Saint-Domingues, New Europe, which probably a lot of people heard of.
That's a free walking tour, is very European based. Yeah, for those who are maybe outside of Europe or haven't seen them. Yeah.
And a big family, let's put it that way. We get to know so many great people in there. We had a lot of fun working with them as well. And he was the lead guide in the English team, and I was meeting point manager, which means I was more on the administration while he was having fun, really. And
okay, is that how the relationship continues today? Right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. After a couple of years of working together, I was always dreaming to open my own business. And I think Arnaud as well was wishing to do something else than just guiding. And we came up with this idea that we try to probably use all this knowledge that we've been gathering to create something that is not necessarily going to compete with Sandeman's, because that was not the idea to bother them on their same market. We had a great time with them. We really loved them. So we opened Babylon thinking of a more straightforward market where we didn't have to be standing there waiting for people every day, but we worked on booking basis, and we went to places where they didn't go initially, which was the museums. So it's where we kept that relationship with the guides that worked there, so they could send us people if they ever wanted to visit a museum, and we could take them there and make a bit of a living out of the little edge that we had by knowing all these guides, basically.
Interesting.
We both live here.
And so just to get a sense, or to give people a sense of that, so Sandeman's has essentially a free walking tour model where it's free to join the tour. They typically are larger group sizes, I know, especially in some of these larger cities. And I think even as they get bigger, I guess, you have the meeting point, because you don't often know how many people are going to show up. And then you have multiple guides, and then I guess you can break off. But part of Sandeman's business model is to then upsell on maybe some other tours that aren't free. Obviously, the guides work for tips. Did you provide some sort of commission or incentive to those free walking tour guides to promote your tours in some of the museums starting out?
Sure, yeah. I mean, if they ever sold any tour that we offer, like, for example, for the Louvre or something like that, we definitely try to pay them for their effort, because it's not part of their job description. And surely we didn't ask them to do it during the tour. It was more like people came and asked, they're definitely going to buy more from somebody that they trust and they already had a tour with than if we just barge in them. And then, we say, hey, we offer as well museum tours.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely we value that that customer coming from a friend, basically.
Mm-hmm. And so tours of, obviously initially the Louvre and other places, they've existed for a long period of time. How did you and Arnaud think about coming up with a unique value proposition in that space?
Yeah, difficult. It's a good question. I think we both love what we do, first of all. I have a very analytic view when it comes to design. I studied industrial design, so it helped me as well see and benchmark what was out there. We took a lot of tours, we seen what was going on, and we knew we were getting into the beaten path, which is basically where everybody is, so the most common tour they can get. But we thought that we could offer something that it was more up to date, a bit more modern to whatever was offered until now. Especially with the insight of Arnaud, who's American, we're aiming to get Americans coming in and give them something that it's more resembling basically to their own culture, but as well being able to transmit this art and culture that we have over here in the European lands and then just making it accessible to them. So we reshaped what we saw out there into something that avoided all those, I'll call it mistakes. There's no mistakes, it's just differences that we didn't quite like for that type of market. And it's working very well.
Yeah, and I suspect, knowing you and I know the little bit that I do, but part of what Chris Sandeman and Sandeman's really had to overcome was the notion of, okay, if this is a free tour, early on, especially, people's expectations were, well, this has got to be a crap guide, right? Like if it's free, like how could this possibly be a good thing? And so part of anybody that comes out of Sandeman's is not this at all. I mean, you really, had to work for your tips because you, I'm sure, could share stories about this. But, if you weren't on your game or you weren't really taking care of every single one of those customers, that it really impacted your bottom line, the amount of money that you would take home. So I would suspect that both you and Arnaud, when you were starting out early on, were pretty amazing guides and took that job really seriously. You weren't just going to give a walk and point tour of the Louvre. You were going to try and turn that into something special. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, in part of it, I'll go ahead and defend all the Saint-Denis guides, because literally they're great people, and amazing guides come out of there, especially those that come in with passion, that they love the city and they want to share it, and they have some special personality that goes well with that. And I think Arnaud had that, in that sense, where he knew how to communicate to people. He was a guide. I was more of the, like I said, the boring part, the management, giving tickets, receiving people, splitting groups. I was not giving the tours. But once I got into the museums, I started pulling the threads of everything that I was seeing and connecting points and connecting this to the other thing. And it was just amazing, because my mother is an artist, and I think it came from that, like seeing all these books at home and then seeing the paintings live, which is like very eye-opening in that sense. So yeah, definitely when we went in there, he had the expertise and I had that passion, and I learned from him how to get those tools, and we definitely put in 100%. But I'm sure that before this, he was putting 100% as well in Saint-Denis as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then let's talk about that growth. So you maybe had a great year. You had a lot of people coming on your tours. How did you think about? Did you set out from the beginning like, okay, we're gonna build a multi-7-figure business? Let's go. How did that process come about?
No, not really. We first. We didn't even buy a sign. We made one, and for the first 4 months, we barely paid for it. So that was about our income. It was too much work for no income, really. And I think every time that I think about new cities that we open, I wish I could go back into that time management that I had in the past, where I could dedicate myself to actually going and guiding myself. The tours and training the guides myself, and teaching them what I want to do here and there, which I don't have the time to do anymore. So I'm probably going to talk to you after this Skype on how to get that done.
We like to help busy people like yourselves, but so it wasn't. I mean, at some point you had to be like. Was it just you're getting busier, or at what point, or how many years in where you're like, okay, let's get serious about either projecting, or did you work in terms of targets? When did that start happening?
So that was probably in 2014.
And how many years was that?
Year and a half or 2 years in.
2 years, yeah.
Where I came up with the idea of we needed something else than just Paris, just to try it out. We could separate the accounts and it wouldn't damage what we've been building until now, but at least we can try to work with that same model. And we have a couple of friends that just moved to Amsterdam. So we said, well, instead of going directly to London, which is our objective, let's try to Amsterdam, which is much smaller. Mm-hmm. In 2013, 14 was not the beast that is right now. I mean, it's huge. The city is overflowing anywhere. Before it was a different type of market. So we're pretty new over there. We're in between the first ones to do museum tours as well, because everybody went to the city center and the Red Light District and whatnot. So at that point, it was again the same starting point as Paris was, let's just try it out, and if it works, perfect, and if it doesn't, well, we do what we're doing, and if it pays enough, great, and then if not, move on. So yeah, 2014 was the first step. Mm-hmm. Things got speed up after the Paris attacks. Mm-hmm. Because when your main source of income gets hit like that, when 70% of the market goes down, you see in museums people just getting laid off or in extended holidays because it's not enough. 40% of the people fired from this place. A lot of companies that we knew closed their doors. So that's when we knew that we had to diversify and fast. And I think that was what pushed us to open many more cities and to improve what we were doing and be more cost efficient as well. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson for anyone that's listening. You don't have to be in a city like Paris and experience a random terror event, it could be a hurricane, it could be, a political change in either the country or the city, or even just the fickleness of the markets too. All of a sudden, Iceland is super hot and everything, it's going great. And then maybe there's a big volcano, or maybe all of a sudden it's, Fiji or someone else. I think that's a great message, because I think a lot of folks listening could relate to, oh, wow, suddenly my main business took a hit of like 70 or 75%. Like, holy cow, like what do you do in that moment? That must have been pretty challenging.
We did the same thing elsewhere, but I mean, there's other people that do better things, that they get creative and do different stuff, and it grows in a more diversified way. We just open more cities, was a natural process that we're already in, but we just had to accelerate and push forward, because if not, we'll be doing other things right now, flipping burgers, or who knows.
Sure. So you spoke about moving to Amsterdam. As you think about this growth in new cities, were you able to manage this remotely? Like, at what point do you start onboarding people who are more than just guides? Because the typical growth pattern is, we start either a man with the van, or a lady with the van doing walking tours, driving tours, whatever they might be. Then you're like, okay, wow, great demand. We get a bunch more guides. Hopefully you can find good people. Then at some point you're kind of like, oh, okay, we need me to come out of the business. Like you said, I need to stop leading tours so I can manage this. And then at some point you kind of get into the stage of like an operations manager, or people to manage different channels. What did that process look like for you? And do you have any guidance for people who might be going through that same sort of phase?
Well, if I had to give a piece of advice, I would say react before you fall, really. Do things before they actually hit you. I think the fact of like stopping to get tools to be able to take care of the business was when my phone was ringing, vibrating in my pocket so much during my tours that I was just not concentrating on the tools anymore. So I think that was the end of it for me, of giving tours, which is a lot of fun, and it was good money as well. So I had to decide on going to a different type of business, or side of the business, which I had no idea what I was doing, really. Yeah. That has been the same since that day. I have no idea what I'm doing, really. I'm just always finding new things, and I'm always in that unknown territory.
I can't tell you how much. I'm sure everyone listening can relate and appreciate your authenticity. I can relate totally. Same sort of thing. Like I was a guide. I trained guides, and now I'm trying to run a tour guide training business. Like you're always. I think it's a good thing if you're kind of constantly a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit being like, I don't know what the hell is like you're trying to keep the head above water.
And you think you're being clever, but then it's like inside you have no idea what you're talking about. And some people in front of you seems to think that you are, and then they do things for you. So that's pretty much how I've been working with this. I always put myself in that uncomfortable situation where I have no idea what I'm doing, and that means that I'm doing something new. And if I can get rid of what I've been doing for a while, which I build a system for, which is that's what I like to do. And Arnaud and I are pretty good at that, where we try to optimize this thing where we can run it, out of this type of tools all the time. And we don't have to be an office if we can avoid it, and create those systems. That means that once it's created, I can delegate it to somebody, to somewhere, or I can just make it automatic, and I can get to the next challenge.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and another piece of advice worth emphasizing, because I think a lot of folks who, I always like to highlight, you can absolutely make the decision just to have a lifestyle business and to create something that is enough revenue that you're happy or you're busy, or if you want to lead tours with a small team, that's amazing, and nobody should fault you for that if what you want. But I think where people do start to stumble is when we say like, well, yeah, I would like to make this. Whether it's a revenue goal or a profit goal or having more free time goal, that what you're saying is key, building systems inside the business. So how did you think about, or maybe a different way of coming at that would be, what were some of the key systems that you put in place early on that helped you delegate and move on to the other tasks?
but there's countless of them. I wouldn't remember one specifically, but it becomes for ticketing or for organizing schedules or for how to manage your emails, your invoices, or how much you can do on your phone or how much you can do on your computer, or like a booking system or optimized website. There's always something to work on.
Mm-hmm. And the notion is put it in a process that somebody can, I guess, was that typically the thing that you would figure out that system, you would use it and then hand it off to somebody else and obviously empower them to improve it? Yeah,
I'll test them inside out, and I'll test even more than that. I'll go beyond and whatever I'm comfortable with testing even, to make sure that we can be constant and efficient every time with that system. If it's not, then we still need to work on it. And what I'm trying to do right now, which it could sound crazy, is that I'm trying to hire somebody to redo it all.
Okay. What do you mean?
I don't trust myself. I think it could be done better.
Okay.
So I give him like the task and I say, well, this is what we need to be done. But I'm not going to tell you how I do it right now. Just do it and then make mistakes and then we'll see what we create. Maybe it's much better than what I do. So that's what I'm looking for right now, to have somebody improve whatever I've done.
Excellent. Well, to give people a sense of it, how many people are on your team in terms of, let's say, office side and then the guide side? We can address in a moment, but how big is your team?
The office, it's not an I. That's it.
So it's still just you two are the main, essentially, operations managers, owners, everything.
Everything. From A to Z, we do everything. We open, we close, we swipe the floors. The only thing that we don't do anymore is give the tours. That's the only part that we do. And
presumably you have sort of bookkeeping and accounting contractors that help you with that side of things?
No, we do it mainly ourselves, except for tax reasons. We do have like the end of the year, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So that I didn't appreciate that. So you've had an operation that. How many cities are you in?
8.
8 cities, and you're running all that just with the two of you. Who's doing these systems? You say you're making these systems and handing them off. You're not handing them to Arnaud, are you? Who's picking those up?
Put them in the other systems that you have. You can connect them together and it runs on its own, or you can sort of like discreetly send it over to other people while they're doing other stuff. They do that as well.
So let's speak about that.
Do that.
Sorry?
As long as the system is easy enough, I'll just sneak it in somewhere.
Okay, so this is blowing my mind. I want to keep exploring this. I knew you guys were amazing, but now you're starting to really mess with my mind here. So what does your team of guides look like, say, a peak season across your cities globally?
Golden. No, they're great. We have about... It's a difficult number to give you because there's the...
Totally understand, yeah.
There's the ones that we use as backups, and then the backups that we use a bit less. There's a bit more than 100 and 150 maybe.
Okay. That would include all the part-times and the people. How many would you consider your core who you're able to provide fairly full-time work for the season?
I would say 10 in each city.
Okay.
The city Paris is always going to be a bit bigger, but around each city, that would get us.
Okay, so in that 70 to 80 kind of range. So how many of these systems are you empowering those guides, obviously to lead tours, but are they stepping up and taking on some of these additional roles in the company, or are you mostly not involving them to that extent? Some of them.
No.
Who is doing all this work? I don't understand.
We do it and we don't take days off. That's the only problem that we have.
Yeah, this is it. People, you need to hire an operations manager. That's what you need.
Yeah, I'm not good at delegating. I'll be at some point better at that. But truly, I think we're amazing at creating systems, so it doesn't feel like we're working that much, even if we put a lot of hours. And sometimes I really don't want to do it, but our systems are pretty good and they're easy to manage, so that makes it easier.
Okay, so let's dive into these one or two of these systems because now people are hooked too. So you're using, I assume, an online booking software that's helping with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just plugging in my computer. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. What is the system you use?
We use Fair Harbor.
Okay.
Right now.
Secondly, the big question on a lot of people's mind, I'm sure, is what are your distribution and marketing? What does that look like right now? And let's just focus on right now. We can go backwards if we want to.
Messy, I would say.
Messy. What would the percentages look like? Are you leveraging the online travel agents like the TripAdvisor and Viator and those? How many direct sales? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, we're definitely with a lot of like OTAs. We try to work with people that can bring us solutions as well, not just put our products out there. Because it could become a headache if there's too many and we have to manually work on each one. So we can get an account manager. It's always great. So that's where we get a bunch of stuff. And if we connect to API, even better, because there's less headaches and less mistakes and more bookings as well that are not going to get canceled and whatnot. So we are after, Arrival or WTM or IDTG, I think it is, and a bunch of others that we go and you meet more and more. I think we're all racing on the same direction anyway. I'm not going to teach anybody who are these OTAs really. We all know it. We all want to have them anyway. And I'm probably the last one to have them. And we're all going to get to the same place. And it's not who gets there first. So for me, it's not like no matter how many or how fast we get, we try to get the best ones that we can per hour.
What for you? I know everybody's experience is a little bit different. So, what Dario was talking about there, for folks who don't know, these are other conferences and conventions that happen across Europe. WTM is the World Travel Market in London, which is huge for having. There's a lot of business done between suppliers and inbound and outbound tour operators, wholesalers. Let's just get into some percentages. So in terms of OTAs, like Get Your Guide, Viator, and others, what percentage of your global bookings would come through that type of channel?
Majority, yeah, because our websites are pretty new. We started with our own website that we built ourselves. It was black and horrible. Then we did a second one, which is still not great, but it get a bit more traffic. We hit a lot of words, just like painting them on the same color, like that was our SEO. And then we hired somebody to do our website, and so on until we have like the 6th or 7th website right now that we created, closed, and changed. So keeping a good SEO with and Google positioning with a new website is difficult. So we definitely rely on OTAs, and then I'd love to get more bookings through our own website because it's not a 20, 25, 15, 30% commission, whatever you signed for. Yeah. But now, definitely we depend a lot on them.
Okay, so when you say majority, like would that be as high as 60 or 70% or even more?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's amazing. I would say for a lot of folks who, they build, certainly organically, or they work with local hotels. That might be a surprise to a lot of folks who, maybe made a Viator account and they haven't got any traction off of it, and they're out there fighting in the trenches. So it sounds like that a big part of your growth was driven by connecting into OTAs who just brought you a ton of travelers, and you paid the commission for it, of course. Like the numbers you referenced, they're 20%. Others can be higher. Can you, am I making an assumption there, or was that pretty pivotal to your growth of getting those people in?
Well, definitely, yeah. Definitely with TripAdvisor, you get a little more traffic. So the integration in between TripAdvisor and Viator sort of made it difficult to get your own to do that. Yeah. But we love working with them. So, it's great business, and I'm happy to have them.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, when it just goes to show that you, as long as you are conscious of your margins, you know your actual costs, you factor in that, hey, I'm going to have to give 20% or more to that online travel agent, then you better have your margin built in there to take. And as long as, because that's what I hear from a lot of folks is, oh gosh, 20% commission, like there's no way I could afford that with my present pricing. So how would you respond to somebody who's maybe got that mindset or struggling with that?
I think you said it's very difficult. I think it's a balance. Sometimes you find, sometimes you don't. You have to look at it on a year or 2 years basis, I guess, and across the board through all the products you have. Busier, weaker months. I know that we're now in winter. We're going to definitely suffer a little bit, like everybody else.
Yeah. I think a big thing is not being too fearful to raise your prices is a big part of it. People who are looking at some of those online travel agents, and again, it's not like you can just plug in and suddenly get 80% of your business chugging along like Babylon. Obviously, they had a good combination of the right products and tours, offerings, good copy, and it had to be enough so that people looking through Viator, TripAdvisor, or Get Your Guide, they had to see your tours, they had to be compelled. So none of that is necessarily obvious for every business that's out there. And obviously the volume of folks in the major European capitals is higher than rural Canada. That, however, you can absolutely be leveraging these OTAs to be a big component of your growth. And I think you guys are a great example where you really leverage them. How much do you work with some of the traditional channels like hotel concierges or inbound, outbound tour operators? Do you spend much time on those channels?
We spend time everywhere. I mean, if it brings result, that's probably a different question. Hotels for now is not our business focus, really.
Yep.
I think it's difficult to integrate into what we offer and the way we offer it, but we will definitely want to. So if there's anybody out there that's looking at this video, you want to give me a call.
Yeah.
No, we work with mainly online travel agents.
Do you hire any people to do marketing for you, or you mentioned any SEO development or these types of?
The website it's out of control anyway. I have no idea what WordPress is. I have no idea how to open it. I knew at some point, and it's just a headache. So we definitely have somebody that takes care of that. If we need to change anything on the website or add or combine or merge, they take care of it.
And it sounds like you're not spending in terms of Facebook advertising or Google ads. Do you have a wing or people that you do that for you?
We rarely do that. We try to grow it more organically. We tried it a few times. It didn't pay off. So I don't think we did it correctly, but we'll probably try it again at some point. I wouldn't say no to it, but now it is not our main source of bringing people in.
I can relate totally to this, the notion of, 20% is a lot to give to someone like, whatever, TripAdvisor, Expedia, or some of the other ones that are, niche focused, Klook and others. To me, they've got whole armies of people who are trained and who are optimizing for, Google ads, Facebook ads. Man, I've been in Google AdWords long enough to know that is worth its weight in gold, especially if they're only paying you when they deliver, which is the nice thing about the online travel. They're going to do a bunch of spending on your products, and if it doesn't sell, that hasn't cost you anything. There's tons of downsides, but to me, that was one of the big ones that you're essentially outsourcing in many ways. Maybe some of those advertising channels. Not to say that many people decide, okay, I'm going to have a marketing wing. I'm going to have my own advertising team, and then they're going to drive direct sales. And obviously, you're going to pay out to them, but maybe you can get better margins by driving those direct sales. But for folks like yourselves, especially if you're a small team, you're talking like 2 people who are running this entire operation. That's just amazing that they can help drive your growth. Any insights as to how you Go ahead, please.
No, just adding it. Just we should have 16 people in the office. I know that, but
yeah,
well, we'll come one day.
It'll come one day. Look, they're hiring. This is the job ad right now. If you've ever thought of living in Paris, this might be your opportunity. Go help these guys out. But can you speak? You've obviously had tremendous success with the online travel agents. People who I've spoken to have had a lot of frustrations. They can't, whatever it might be, they can't get a hold of an account manager. They don't know how to make it work for them. What advice would you have to somebody who wants to build a relationship with an OTA? And how do you measure success? Is pretty easy, whether they give you the bookings or not. But how did you choose between them and where to focus?
Well, that's a difficult question because I struggle with that as well. I have a list here, and there's about 15 people that I need to contact, or at least names, companies, and I have no idea how to contact them. So I use every tool that I have. I use every contact that I have. I move around, I ask, and I never stop until I get them. Mm-hmm.
These are OTAs that you want to contact to list your tours or connect into API to your booking software, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just part of the contact list that I would like to create there. So it's always a struggle. I mean, there's no easy way to do it. Mm-hmm. If you get in contact with them, right now we're in a better position because we have 8 cities, we have 126 products or something like that, and that are live right now, and we cover a bunch of different places to visit and whatnot. So we're interesting enough for them to respond an email. Mm-hmm. Smaller at the beginning, it was 4, 5, 6 months chase until we get a good response, and then we chase it up, and then probably in a year from the beginning that we started chasing, we get a result. Okay,
so that was you're maybe setting expectations there in terms of timelines for people. You were really going after people at Viator to say, hey, what are you saying to them? Hey, I'm not seeing results. How can we work with you? What did you find was effective?
Yeah, well, those are not handling that, so I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Because I gave up.
Okay, you gave up.
Yeah, it was a lot of chasing, a lot of working, but I think it was worth it. I mean, they know what they're doing at the beginning. When we got there, they're not taking everybody as well. Same as a lot of companies, new companies that are launching here. They don't want to take anybody. So you need to show them they really want it and to be really interested. It's not a matter of just sending a copy-paste email, really. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of work behind there, a lot of contact, a lot of following up, reactive as well, and are not to care of.
Yeah, I think what I've heard, at some of these conferences where we met, speaking to the online travel agent reps that come to them, and oftentimes these are managers and people who are actually working with accounts and different folks, and they tend to say the same thing, that building that relationship, as hard as it is and as much as they may not respond, you have to maybe have some empathy for them because they've got just a whole pile of providers. And one fellow that I was talking to said, look, that one of the huge struggles that they have is having really great copy, images, and videos on your particular, each product, whatever, if you have a whole line of them. He says that is a huge frustration for them. And the more that you can help them with that, the more likely it is that, one, they'll be able to market and sell your tour, but two, that they'll be willing to work with you to develop, get your other products listing. And they have a lot of knobs and dials and things that they're turning. They've got a vast operation. They've moved away from, obviously, the curated model, almost all of them, it seems like. So they're just, it's this open marketplace. I don't know how they do what they do, because you can imagine in a city like Paris, just how many people have written in and tried to connect into Viator or even something like Get Your Guide, and they have to look at that slew of, unfortunately, a lot of very similar product and try and pick out of that crowd, okay, what is actually going to sell, who actually has giving amazing experiences. That's probably the hardest thing that they just don't know. I mean, until you get some reviews and traction. So
yeah.
I've just, did an interview yesterday with folks who said, you get a lot of leverage if you can come in and you're, above the fold on TripAdvisor, right? You're already showing that, just from your public facing reviews, they've got rave reviews. People are saying these guys are amazing. That to them is a really great indicator. So if you're working backwards with like, okay, how am I going to succeed with OTAs? It's like, one, get back to basics, right? I think part of the reason you guys are able to do that as well as you have is because you have good people leading amazing tours. How do you do that at scale?
Well, at the beginning, like I said, I was out there training and taking them by the hand and showing them everything that I know and giving the best tools and trying to create a team between them that they can share between them. We're still trying that, but I'm a bit offhand right now. I'm just taking it more on the phone and WhatsApp, and if I can meet them, great, but then I'm not taking a plane every day to Rome or to Florence to go see my guys there. It's a combination of a lot of factors. I think ears open is the biggest.
Which, sorry?
Ears open to their criticism.
I see.
It's probably one of my biggest leverages really to get them not to get into work better. It's just that they naturally going to work better if they can communicate well with us, which is not always the case. Of course, I try my best. Mm-hmm. But that we try to be a very open-minded company, not only with guides, but as well with OTAs and with partners and with even competition. We made most of them. We have a great relationship. We go have dinners and drinks, and we meet in the conferences, and then it's great to meet them as well because there's enough cake for everybody to get a share, to get a slice. So for me, I don't see them as competition. I see them as a place where I can learn and I can admire as well what they do, and as well learn from their mistakes if they're willing to share, which is, I guess, what we're doing here on this video.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's such a refreshing approach to it too. And I think that you can find just a ton of opportunity by having that mindset. An interview, a couple of weeks ago, someone was talking about somebody opened up, which was essentially a directly competitive tour, and said, some of the responses you could go like Steve Jobs and be like, I got to crush this person, I got to be an asshole, and that's how I'm going to succeed. But he went on the tour, found out about him, and then went out for a beer and said, I really enjoyed your tour. I think you've got an awesome product. Here's what we're doing over here. What do you think about trying to do something together or joining forces? And now he's one of the, his head trainer, one of his operations managers, just because he had that open mind. He reached out to somebody who, who had a lot of potential, who could have become somebody who was taking away maybe a lot of your business, or is now a vital part of it. And there's many ways that relationship can go. Do you have any examples of some of the either, you mentioned partners that you're working with. Have you had any sort of innovative collaborations with other people in that space, or has that been mostly just in terms of camaraderie and helping each other out?
I'll start with guides. Guides are independent, so it's a business relationship as well. So it's a partner in a way. I always consider it like a very flat environment where we all work on the same level, really. Mm-hmm. I'm actually their client, so I guess
sure.
So that makes it different. Some of them understand that, and they try to sell me more stuff, mm-hmm. and I'm willing to try that out if it works on our side as well. So we tried a few tours that they proposed. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But we did give them a shot with quotation marks competitors or people that are on the same market, the same type of clientele, but probably not doing the same tours. We either send each other customers. We don't even commissions in between, really. It's more of a camaraderie.
Yeah, perfect.
Just to share customers, because I'm not going to take them anyway to that specific tour. I don't have that tour, and I know they have it, and I would love to share that with them because I know he gives a great tour of that. So that we did a lot, and if an OTA asks us for a specific tour price or something, we try to work it out as well. I mean, we're not closed in our ways, and then we try to change. We're actually pretty flexible in everything we do.
Mm-hmm. I want to circle back to the OTAs in just a second, but the last note on here, you're in a space in Europe where there are a lot of these notions of contracted guides. So they could be working for you, they could be working for a competitor, they could have various degrees of commitment. How did you navigate those waters? One, to actually recruit and find really awesome people, and two, how do you get them so that they're willing to give you most of their schedule?
I don't have a formula. I was wishing you gave me one day.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been lucky, and I've been working very hard to find these people, or sometimes they find me, which is great, even better. And a lot of interviewing. I try to have a system for the interviewing, which I don't think it's great, but at least it's mine, and I understand what I do with that. And the most difficult part is when you have somebody that looks great and you have to say them no, because there's nothing you can say that would justify your no. But I think there's definitely 80% no's and 20% yes on my interview.
That's I think an honest answer too. The people I think have success with this are the people who are saying no to most of the applications, or they're going out and fighting or working really hard so that you have that ability to say no. If you're hiring for 5 positions and you get 10 people apply, that's not, you got 50% of those people you have to take. That's not enough people. You want to be able to be saying no to most folks.
And as well, my conception of a great team would be smaller, really, than bigger. Because I would like to know who I work with, and I know that some business owners, they have no idea who their guides are, and they don't care, which is amazing to get to that point where you take care of other stuff and you're really concentrating on what you do. But I sort of need that human contact as well, and I know who I work with, and I know that I'm putting my customers with the right people, and the only way to do that is through that, knowing who you work with. So I don't think I will ever delegate that part or get detached of it, because that's my quality control.
Yeah. Do you how do you think about that, the culture of your company being in decentralized cities? Obviously, I imagine you do some get-togethers within cities. Are you doing that across cities at all?
We try to do it. It's difficult sometimes with independent guides as well, because they have their own schedules and families and whatnot, and they tend to work quite a lot as well, because we work with the best, so they're always busy. So that's definitely a factor that we need to work as well on. Probably working more on the company culture, like you said. It's something that we're not doing that much. Not doing enough to please me, really.
Sure.
We do, but not enough to be really to what I expect.
Yeah, I'll circle back here. I'm mindful of the time. I want to bring this to a close, but just on those last little bit, because you've had such success with OTAs and driving that into multiple 7-figure growth. We talked about the notion of having your great copy and descriptions and helping OTAs out there. The other thing was this whole notion of unique products. Buy a tour, get your guide, gets really excited when you can go to them and say, this is a tour that you could only get through you guys. Have you dabbled into that at all? Or do you still list the same tours on multiple OTAs?
No, we haven't done exclusive tours yet. But if you want one,
This is I was chatting with a fellow at the conference who had some really. I'll mention it because I know we've got folks in the call that want to hear. But he came up with a way that he could have more or less the same base tour, and then offered a customized thing to Get Your Guide, a customized thing to Viator, and they were exclusive. So they get really excited when you can go to them and say, this is the only place that you can book this experience. They'll tend to turn up a lot of knobs and dials because they're already indicating that this is an exclusive product. And so they'll, anyway, but he was running a coach tour, and it went out to, Stonehenge was the example that he gave. So the one that you could get through Get Your Guide had maybe a VR experience at Stonehenge included. So that was some type of package for a set price that you couldn't book through, say, I don't know, I said their first, that was Get Your Guide, Viator. So then the Viator one had an extra, like walking tour combo, or it had X, Y, or Z, or maybe it included lunch. You can do some of these tweaks, and that's something, if you haven't been playing around with, call up those account managers and see what they'd be open to, because it could, you guys are having more than enough success with them, but that could be another way that I've heard people leveraging it. Anything else that you found really drove success with those OTA? Like, was it a big, what you said, it took a little while, and then once it hit and they started selling your tours, was it easy then to add your other products in other cities and be like, hey, same guys, now we're doing it over here? Or is it a fight for every inch?
It was a fight every time.
Okay.
Every time. Yeah. Sometimes it gets a tiny bit easier, but because you're dealing with the same person, but every company has different city managers and regional managers, and depending on how they deal with that, it's going to be more or less easy to do it. And yeah, you can have a 20 city company, but it doesn't mean that 20 of the cities are going to be interesting for them anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. I always say that with hesitation because I have so many questions on these calls, but I do want to be respectful here. When you look out into the field, you go to these conferences, you go to the events, what do you think are a couple of the I don't know, big mistakes that you see other tour company owners making, or you talk to them and it makes you like cringe a little bit, or you said that was something that we really figured out, or anything like that? What do you think some of the big mistakes are out there for people specifically who want to grow, not necessarily the mom and pop operations?
I'm not good at that. Seeing somebody else's mistake and saying you make it a mistake. I don't need that. Yeah. No, really. I think everybody does whatever they can, the best way they can. Mm-hmm. I would just say, try to go with the flow. Don't complain that much.
Okay.
The only one, I guess.
Yeah. It's a tough question when framed that way. Maybe I can come at it another way. If you were just looking back, what was one of the key mistakes? You mentioned a couple where you're saying, like, obviously you really focused on Paris, and then when the event in Paris happened, that was a big hit. What would be a mistake looking back? You're like, Arno and I should have done this instead of that.
A bit of thinking as well, because we always went back and we corrected it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. We don't leave anything go like that. We just go back and take care of it. We didn't take care of it right away. We made so many mistakes anyways. And that's what everybody will tell you. I mean, we make mistakes and we learn out of that. We did make a lot of mistakes, and we learned out of that, and we improved. I'm going to keep you waiting for a while.
That's okay. It's I like asking those tough questions, and like you said, sometimes it's just choosing. When I'm looking back at mistakes that I'm making daily, I like to have as many mistakes in the day as possible. Getting up, I have my mistake goals. If I can have at least 4 or 5 major mistakes by noon, I'm doing well.
Yeah, the funniest mistake that we've done was when we started the whole thing of starting working together independently. Was we're gonna aim for Portuguese tours. Because we thought, 2012, we had the World Cup coming and the Olympic Games are all in Brazil, and they're getting a lot of money, and well-educated people traveling, they probably wanted a service that fits them, and they not have to go to the English tours or Spanish tours, get half of it and leave in the middle, which was an absolute mistake. You should have seen us hunting Brazilians at the Esplanade of Notre Dame, trying to see if by the shoes we could recognize them, or by the straight hair or the clothes that they were, like, that's a Brazilian, definitely there. And we go, bon dia. So it's the most ridiculous thing ever. We spent 4 months just standing there every day trying to hunt for Brazilians. It never worked out.
Where were you hunting for Brazilians? In Lisbon or something?
Yeah, in Paris.
Oh, in Paris.
In the waiting line for Notre Dame. We were there, like, oh, we'll take you. We had our Brazilian guide and everything, who came every day. Poor guy. I mean, we definitely had to pay him for coming, but it was a funny mistake. Spent 4 months of not making any money at all, every single day standing there, talking to complete strangers out of the blue, trying to explain that we sell the tour in Portuguese, and none of us speak Portuguese, of course.
That's a riot. So what does the growth look like going forward? Where are you guys now? Are you excited about expanding to more cities? I heard you say it at the beginning of the call. You're not done.
Yeah, no, actually, just before we had this call, I was entering some new cities in batch that I'm creating for the guides, and I wanted to have all the cities there. So I entered about like 4 more cities in there. So
amazing.
2019 is the next year, yeah.
And are you going to have the same sort of approach where you want to focus on some of those museums and big sites, or has that approach evolved? That's kind of your wheelhouse, right?
Yes, it is. We want to have the best museums in the world. That's our aim, and we want to have the best tours in those museums, and for the smaller crowd possible.
Yeah. Well, I will be following with rapt attention. I'm sure many others want to find out a little bit more. Where can they find your company website or get in touch? What does that look like?
So our website is pretty easy. If you heard the name of our company, that's pretty much the same thing, .com. So babylontours.com.
Okay.
Over there, you can send us a contact form if you want to contact us. It's the same as you send it to the other email. In between my 14 accounts, they all come to the same place anyway. And it's only 2 of us, so both of us going to see it. Just put an interesting title to it.
That's great. That's the last little bit of success. The key to running a multi-7-figure tour business: 14 email accounts, and then you all just funnel them into one.
Into one, same thing. So it's a hectic amount of emails. It's about 80 per day that I answer. So definitely put a question over there.
Hey, Dario, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your insights and your experience and wisdom. On behalf of everybody who's tuned in, just thanks so much. You're very, very generous.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a great day.